Have you ever found yourself being judged by a voice in your head? The one that seems to always be ready to point out mistakes, amplify failures, and discredit your achievements. That's your inner critic. It's constant, relentless, and often merciless. Did you know that your inner critic could be an evolutionary remnant? In ancient times, this inner censor helped identify risks and increase survival chances. However, today, it often exaggerates, treating small failures as enormous threats. Think of your inner critic as a maladjusted fire alarm. It goes off both when there's a real storm and when you've burnt a piece of toast. The problem isn't the existence of the alarm, but the lack of adjustment. By regulating this system, you can transform your critic into a compass rather than an anchor. And what if there were a way to adjust this inner alarm using simple tools you already have? What few people know is that it is possible to adjust this inner alarm and transform this relationship to find peace within yourself. In this video, we will explore together how to recognize, understand, and above all, reframe the negative thoughts your inner critic creates. This is not a path about ignoring or suppressing this voice. It's about learning to listen and gently redirect it towards something that brings strength, peace, and self-compassion. In fact, the critical voice inside you is not really yours. Neuroscience studies show that it is like a recording of past experiences and external values. So, why let it drive your life? Imagine a DJ playing the same scratched record repeatedly, one that you didn't even choose. Your job is to change the music. This can start by identifying which phrases this voice frequently uses and asking, is this true or just an old hit that no longer makes sense? If you're ready to change this soundtrack, wait until you hear how ancient philosophies can help transform your inner dialogue. Why is this important? The inner critic has a profound impact on how we see ourselves, what we believe we are capable of achieving, and how we relate to the world around us. Allowing it to control our inner narratives can paralyze us, fuel insecurities, and prevent us from living fully. However, by learning to work with it, we can open up space for acceptance, transformation, and a sense of serenity. Today, you will find practical reflections to identify the patterns of this inner voice. Also, strategies inspired by philosophies such as Stoicism, Buddhism, and positive psychology to disarm the traps of self-criticism. And, just as important, exercises that will help you cultivate a more compassionate and motivating inner dialogue. Ready to start this journey? Let's explore together how to transform the inner critic into an ally on the path to self-knowledge and inner peace. If this journey resonates with you, share in the comments. What is the impact of your inner critic on your daily life? Leave your like to help more people find themselves, and subscribe to follow more transformative content. The constant critic. Recognizing your inner voice. What is the inner critic? The inner critic is that voice that lives in your mind, commenting, questioning, and often judging every decision, thought, or action. It's not a casual visitor. It's a constant presence, an inner narrative that, most of the time, seeks to point out where you failed or could have been better. But where does this voice come from, and why does it seem so persistent? In fact, this voice is a mix of past experiences, social beliefs, and personal expectations. It's the personification of years of feedback, positive or negative, filtered by your mind to form a kind of inner censor. Despite its intentions often being protection or improvement, its execution is frequently laden with severity and negativity. Why is it always there? The inner critic emerged as a defense mechanism. At some point in human evolution, it helped anticipate problems, avoid mistakes, and seek acceptance within the social group. However, in the modern world, where our challenges are more complex and less physical, this voice often goes out of control, becoming a force that paralyzes us instead of protecting us. Often, the inner critic manifests as constant doubt. Am I really capable? Fear of judgment. What will others think of me? Self-deprecation. I never do anything right. These automatic thoughts may seem harmless at first, but when unrecognized, they have a devastating cumulative impact. Here are some examples of how the inner critic can appear in daily life. Before an important presentation, you're going to forget everything and embarrass yourself in front of everyone. After making a small mistake at work, how could you be so careless? You never learn. When trying something new, it's no use. You're not good at this. Don't even start. Can you identify these patterns in your own life? The good news is that recognizing these thoughts is the first step to facing them. Can you remember a recent situation where your inner critic was particularly active? What did it say? How did that make you feel? Imagine that this voice belongs to someone else. Do you think it is being fair and compassionate with you? In Stoicism, philosophers practice something called praemeditatio malorum, or anticipation of evils. But instead of feeding fears, they use this practice to prepare mentally for challenges, facing them with calmness and clarity. When your inner critic says, "You will fail," respond with something stoic. "And if I fail, I can learn from it. I am not defined by one mistake." This approach not only disarms the criticism but also strengthens your emotional resilience. Want to see how Buddhism and positive psychology can elevate this game even further? Let's explore how self-compassion can transform your inner critic into a mentor. Learning to listen, identifying your critic's patterns. The importance of listening to your inner critic. It may seem counterintuitive, but the first step to transforming your inner critic is to listen to what it has to say. This doesn't mean accepting or believing everything, but rather paying attention to the patterns, triggers, and messages of this voice. Why? Because it's impossible to change something you don't understand. By listening to your inner critic, you begin to notice when and where it manifests most strongly. Which situations or thoughts trigger it? What kind of language it uses to communicate? This process is like mapping an unknown territory. You can't create a new path without understanding where the obstacles are. The impact of negative inner dialogue. Ignoring or completely giving in to your inner critic has real consequences. Studies in psychology show that recurrent negative thoughts can lead to low self-esteem. The constant repetition of critical messages shapes how you see yourself. Anxiety and stress. The feeling of never being good enough fuels a cycle of tension and worry. Procrastination and fear of action. When the inner critic is too intense, it can paralyze, preventing you from taking risks or growing. Reflecting on how this voice influences your daily behavior is a powerful step to interrupt these cycles. Where does this criticism come from? The root of the inner critic in you can often be linked to past experiences, such as childhood messages, things you heard from authority figures, like "you need to try harder" or "why aren't you like your brother?" Culture and society. Social norms and ideals of success can create impossible standards to meet, fueling a sense of inadequacy. Fear of rejection. The human need to belong makes the inner critic try to protect you from failures and external judgments, even if misguided. Recognizing these roots is not about finding blame, but understanding that this voice is not inherently you. It's a construct influenced by external factors. What if your inner critic were a character in a comedy? Naming it can be the first step to disarming it. You can call it the judge, the saboteur, or even the drama queen. By giving it a name, you create distance between you and it. The next time the thought, "you never do anything right," comes up, you can respond, "Oh, there goes the judge again," exaggerating as always. Let's talk about this. This separation helps you not fully identify with the negativity. And what if you could rewrite the script of this critical voice? Wait until you discover the power of positive affirmations and reflective journaling. See more practical exercise. Inner Critic Journal. For a week, set aside a few minutes at the end of the day to reflect on your inner critic. Record situations in which it manifested, what it said, how you reacted emotionally, what the impact was on your behavior. At the end of the week, you will begin to notice patterns and triggers, allowing you to face this voice more consciously. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Viktor Frankl. This space between stimulus and response is where you begin to listen to your inner critic without being dominated by it. What pattern do you notice in how your inner critic manifests? If you could respond to it differently, what would that response be? Reframing the negative, transforming critical thoughts. In other words, challenging the negativity of the inner critic. Recognizing your inner critic is a big step, but true transformation begins when you question the validity of your negative thoughts. Most of them are not based on facts, but on distorted perceptions and deep-rooted fears. To reverse this cycle, you need to practice the skill of challenging these thoughts. Here are 3 simple questions you can ask to start dismantling the negativity. Is this criticism true? Often, critical thoughts are exaggerated or completely unfounded. Ask yourself, do I have concrete evidence to support this? Is this criticism useful? Even if a critical thought has some truth, does it help you improve or just feed feelings of inadequacy? How would I talk to a friend? You would probably be more kind and understanding to a friend facing the same challenges. Why not do the same for yourself? Resignifying thoughts in a positive light. Once you start questioning your critical thoughts, it's time to reframe them. This doesn't mean ignoring or masking real challenges, but finding a more productive and compassionate way to see them. Here's how it works. Critical thought. I never finish anything. I'm so incompetent. Reframing. I may have difficulty finishing some projects, but this is an opportunity to learn to manage my time better. Critical thought. I failed again. I'm not good enough. Reframing. This experience didn't go as expected, but I can use it to grow and try something different next time. With practice, this approach becomes a natural way to deal with negative thoughts. Practicing self-compassion. An essential component of reframing negative thoughts is developing self-compassion. This involves treating yourself with the same empathy and patience you would offer to a loved one. In this way, the practice of self-compassion is like putting on new glasses. Studies show that treating yourself with kindness activates areas of the brain linked to resilience and well-being, such as the prefrontal cortex and the limbic system. Instead of hearing, "You never succeed," try rewriting that phrase as, "It's true that it didn't work out this time, but each attempt is a step towards success." It's like using a lens that amplifies opportunities instead of problems. Prepare for a practical challenge that will transform your view of self-criticism in just 1 week. Do the following exercise. When you notice a critical thought, take a deep breath. Imagine you are talking to a younger version of yourself. What would you say to calm and encourage this child? Replace the critical tone with a kind and understanding one. You yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection. Buddha. This practice of self-compassion is not just an act of kindness. It is a powerful tool to interrupt the cycle of negativity. Practical exercise. Transform your critic into an advisor. Write a dialogue between you and your inner critic. Let it express its concerns, but respond with a compassionate and balanced tone. For example, critic, "You never do anything right." Response, "I understand that you are concerned about my mistakes, but I am learning and improving every day." Over time, this exercise can transform the dynamics of your inner dialogue. What was the last time you identified a negative thought about yourself? How could you reframe it in a more positive and constructive way? Building inner strength. Cultivating inner resilience. Replacing negative dialogue with positive affirmations. One of the most effective ways to strengthen your mind is to replace the negative dialogue of your inner critic with positive and empowering affirmations. This is not just about thinking positively in a superficial way, but actively rewriting the messages you repeat to yourself. Positive affirmation. Instead of, I'm not good enough. Say, I am learning and growing every day. Affirmation of strength. Replace, I always fail with, I am resilient and can handle challenges. Practical tip. Choose 3 affirmations that resonate with you and repeat them daily, preferably in front of a mirror. This helps to consolidate a more positive self-image. Silencing the inner critic. Silencing the inner critic doesn't mean ignoring it, but learning to reduce its intensity and frequency. Here are some strategies. Practice mindfulness. By being present, you perceive critical thoughts as passing clouds without identifying with them. Give your inner critic a name. Personify this voice to create emotional distance. For example, call it the judge. When it appears, you can say, "Oh, there goes the judge again." Redirect your attention. When you notice your inner critic taking over, focus on something positive or inspiring, like a pleasant memory or a goal you want to achieve. Creating a positive self-image. A healthy self-image is built on recognizing your qualities, strengths, and achievements, big or small. Try this. Achievement log. Write down daily something you did well, no matter how small it seems. Gratitude practice. List 3 things about yourself for which you are grateful. This can include personal characteristics, skills, or even your effort to grow. These practices help reshape the way you see yourself and create a solid foundation for your self-esteem. Practical exercise. The mirror of self-confidence. Stand in front of a mirror and look directly into your eyes. Say out loud a quality you appreciate about yourself. Repeat this daily, adding a new quality each day. Although it may feel uncomfortable at first, this exercise is incredibly powerful for reinforcing your confidence. What you think about yourself is much more important than what others think of you. Seneca. This quote from Stoicism reminds us that the power to define our worth lies in our hands, not in external opinions or inner judgments. Therefore, it is essential to understand that the lake of your mind may be agitated, but as with any lake, the bottom of your mind and the lake is always calm. This is the essence of mindfulness, learning to observe thoughts as waves on the surface without being dragged by them. Try this challenge. For one day, whenever you hear your inner critic, pause and say to yourself, I am the space that observes this voice. At the end of the day, note how this impacted your emotions. And now, imagine living each day with this sense of calm and self-awareness. What would be the next step for you on this path? Strengthening emotional resilience. Inner strength also involves the ability to deal with emotional challenges. When faced with difficult situations, practice radical acceptance. Recognize the situation without judgment and without trying to change it immediately. This creates space for more conscious responses. Emotional self-regulation. Learn to identify your emotions, name them, and choose how to respond to them, rather than reacting impulsively. What steps can you take today to replace critical thoughts with affirmations of strength and resilience? Living in peace, cultivating a serene inner world through the power of acceptance. One of the most transformative steps to finding inner peace is accepting yourself as you are, with all your imperfections, contradictions, and challenges. Acceptance is not resignation. It is the sincere recognition of who you are in the present moment, without the weight of judgment. Acceptance of imperfections. Remember that no one is perfect. Our failures are part of the learning and growth process. Acceptance of circumstances. Some situations are beyond our control. Choosing to accept what we cannot change is an act of emotional liberation. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, it is not things that disturb us, but our opinions about them. Embracing growth through imperfection. Imperfections are not obstacles. They are opportunities to grow and connect more authentically with the world. By embracing your vulnerabilities, you also allow yourself to be more compassionate towards yourself and others. Learn from mistakes instead of fearing them. Find strength in your shared humanity with others. Practice saying to yourself, I am a work in progress, and that's okay. Cultivating a peaceful inner world. Inner peace is not a permanent state. It is something you build daily with conscious choices. Some practices that help in this process: mindfulness meditation. Dedicate a few minutes each day to observing your thoughts without judging them. This helps create space between you and your inner critic. Reflective journaling. Write about your emotions, experiences, and insights. Putting thoughts on paper can bring clarity and calm. Gratitude rituals. Focus on the positive aspects of your life. This simple practice can change your perspective and bring contentment. Metaphor for illustrating inner peace. Imagine your mind as a lake. When the winds of self-criticism blow, the waters become agitated, creating waves of negativity. But by practicing acceptance and mindfulness, you become the bottom of the lake, always calm, even if the surface is temporarily agitated. Peace comes from within. Do not seek it without. This phrase sums up the essence of the journey. True peace is an inner work, independent of external circumstances. Challenge proposal: a day of inner peace. Try this simple challenge. Choose a day to practice full acceptance. When critical thoughts arise, observe them. Take a deep breath and respond with an affirmation of self-compassion. At the end of the day, reflect on how this practice impacted your mind and emotions. If you were to describe inner peace in your own life, what would it look like? What would be necessary to cultivate it? Inner peace begins when you choose not to let negative thoughts and voices control your actions. Transforming your inner critic is an act of courage and self-compassion. What will be your first small action to create a more serene inner world? Share in the comments. Your journey can inspire others to take the same step. Comment: how do you deal with your inner critic? Did you find it interesting to give a name to this character? If you could name your inner critic, what name would you give? Have you ever tried to reframe a critical thought? How was that experience? Did you like these ideas? Leave your like and share so more people can learn to deal with their inner critics. Want to dive deeper? Access our ebook in the first pinned comment and discover practical strategies to transform your mind into your best ally. And don't stop here. Choose one of the videos on the screen to continue your journey towards self-knowledge and inner peace.